Hello students, I'm Himani Sharma, your UGC NET educator. In this new YouTube video, we are going to move forward with the concept series that we have, and of course, we are going to deal with a new writer. Who are we going to talk about? What is his contribution, etc.? So, of course, we are going to talk about another writer, another dramatist who is a really prominent writer when we talk about the Hindi literature, and of course, his plays when we translate, we see the translated versions of his plays into English. Hence, he is important from the Indian perspective, including the Indian themes that he deals with, the society, the relationships, etc. that he deals with in his plays are really important. So, we are talking about Mohan Rakesh. So, of course, first of all, just like always, he was born in 1925 in Amritsar. And he passed away in the year 1972 in New Delhi. Correct? So, this was some kind of factual information that we all will be and should be having the hold of when it comes to any writer per se. Now, moving forward, we need to see that what are the factual informations, has he won any award, what are the prevalent themes in his work, so that we know that if we are reading any play of his, we will see the undercurrents of those very particular themes. Or even if we are getting to know those very particular things by the staging of a play, we will be getting back or we will be recalled to this very particular lecture, which is particularly dealing with him and him only. So, he was a writer who received the Sangeet Natak Akademi Award in the year 1968, which is of course associated with the playwrights who are there. So, this particular award, of course, Natak, of course, we mean Natak के साथ drama, of course, brought forth the realities of the Indian middle class families through his characters. When I will be moving forward with certain slides, when I will be showing you the character details and how those characters are developed, how do they deal with the situations that are there in their, sphere, in their atmosphere, etc. You will also be understanding that the realities that we are talking about in this particular slide, how are they dealt with in there. He portrayed the dilemmas of the Indians. Which Indians? Indians who were there, who were changing after the partition, who were trying to deal with certain things, overcome the challenges of a changing society after partition in his short stories and plays. So, he was not a person who was just writing the plays, he was also a prominent short story writer. He started his career as a postman and then eventually he moved to this very particular job of a writer, of a playwright. Correct? We are clear with this much information. Now comes NAYI KAHANI movement. This was a pioneered movement and a prominent one in the Hindi literature. If we talk about NAYI KAHANI movement, he was saying that even if we are not going to show stories from a new perspective, but rather we are going to show the stories as they are. We are going to deal with certain themes. So, let's just read in here. This is said by him only. It is neither the newness of the subject matter, so we are not going to bring something new on the table, nor the new or the old unfamiliar character portrayals that were happening back in times in the fictional world. So, he says there is no such new subject matter, there is no such, let's just say unfamiliar characterization which is there that constitute this very particular newly developed form of short story. So, NAYI KAHANI was a movement in the field of short story writing mein tha, not particularly in plays, right? This particular thing was said by, of course, Rakesh himself, and in an interview to the Journal of South Asian Literature, which was published in the year 1968 when he won the Sangeet Natak, Akademi Award. He also moves forwards and say, our emphasis was on the emergence of an idea through the reality itself. So, he is going to deal with what? He is going to deal with the theme of realism. He is going to show things as they really are. Interpreting the reality around us. What is happening around us? We are going to deal with them. There was a sort of restlessness among us to capture the mood of our time. The Indians that I talked about in the previous slide, the time after the partition, so there was some kind of restlessness which was there inculcated in every Indian when the partition happened, as to how am I going to start my new life, so on and so forth, with many such questions. So he says that I am going to deal with that, right? NAYI Kahani became a symbol for our effort, the effort of the writers, to alienate the short story from what it was after Premchand. So we are going to deal with it in a new way, but of course in the reality check or the realist way. Of course, there were other writers such as Rajendra Yadav, who I can suddenly recall right now. So he was also a pioneer of, he was also a writer who was associated with NAYI Kahani movement. You can Google certain things, right? So this is your homework to do. NAYI Kahani movement ke writers you can pin down on, notebooks. Now there was another critic named Kuldeep Kunal, who described his plays as forever relevant and closer to realism. Why am I talking about realism time and again? And in the previous videos as well, if you could have seen, we have dealt with many writers who are dealing with this theme of realism, because now they wanted to move away from the fictional reality. They wanted to move away from the fictitious, the fictional characters which were created by the writers. They wanted to show the, people, they wanted to show the characters with whom the people, the audience could really relate to. Hence, the realist stance came into being. The characters in his work try to challenge the status quo in order to break free from the gloom and stillness of life, but they still fail. So, the conflict between changing something and then failing at it is really prominently shown in his plays and short stories. So we have his short story collections. We need to know and note down these particular short story collections. Insaan Ke Khandar, that is 1950. Naye Badal, 1957. Then we have Janwar or Janwar, 1959. Ek Aur Zindagi, 1961. Faulat Ka Akash, 1966. So these are certain short story collections which are prominently coming under his NAYI Kahani movement, which he was dealing with when it came to the short story, and how after Premchand he was going to write, and other writers who are following the NAYI Kahani movement, how they are going to proceed with the writings following the realist stance. Then he has also done certain translations. One is Mrichikattikam, which is in Sanskrit, a Sanskrit play. He has translated that into Hindi. And Shakuntalam, again a Sanskrit play that he translated into Hindi language. Correct? Moving forward, now comes the plays of Mohan Rakesh. Number one play is ASHADH Ka Ek Din, correct? One Day in Monsoon. LEHERON ke RAJHANS, The Great Swans, right? And ADHURE, 1969, Halfway House, Na Aane Wala Kal in 1968, out of which the three plays which are here we are going to deal with. The overview, etc., what themes are there in those very particular plays, we are going to talk about them. Moving forward, first play that we are going to deal with, which is his first play as well, is ASHADH Ka Ek Din. So, it is a 3-act play. There are 3 acts which are there in this very particular play, written in Hindi, of course, because he was a writer who used to write in Hindi. One Day in ASHADH, if we translate it into English. So, this is a translation basically. Title of the play derives from the second verse of Sanskrit dramatist Kalidasa's play Meghdut. So we need to know the titles as well. Sometimes the titles are derived from, and when we talk about Kalidasa's play Meghdut, the characters which are there are also Kalidas and Mallika. Correct? So we need to see these very particular things as well, keeping them in our minds, that even if the title is taken from that very particular thing, that could be asked in a statement based question, that the title is taken from Kalidasa's Meghdut or any other, for the wrong part they can say that it is taken from Shakuntala. So we need to be aware of these very particular things. My favorite adaptation of it was done by a renowned Punjabi playwright, the late Balraj Pandit. So adaptation staged basically, even better than many of its Hindi adaptations. So the beautiful adaptation which was the favorite of the person who is writing it, right, and telling it to print, that is basically Kunal, correct? He tells the print. One thing I really liked about his characters is that there is no judgment of right and wrong. We are talking about the grey zone which always and always exists. If I talk about someone being good, they are having the stances of bad as well. If I am talking about something being black, it will have some stance of white as well. So the amalgamation of these zones which are known as grey zones, which are there to, which do not even divide a line of right and wrong. So the characters do not judge each other, which connects with the reader, because all of us have good and bad sides as well. That is why we relate, that is why we connect to this very particular play. So this is of course the poster. Now one thing I wanted to tell you was that this is the story of Kalidas and Mallika. Now what happened, this is a historically, let's just say a historically based play. So one thing which happened was Kalidas, we all know, he had been a renowned writer in the previous time, in the ancient times. He was really good at writing and Mallika was his beloved. So what happened that Kalidas got an opportunity to be patronized by Chandragupta. Hence Mallika was like, you should go. You should go and grab this very particular opportunity. I will wait for you till you come back. Now what happened? Kalidas gained fame. Mallika kept on waiting for him, but he never really arrived and married some other girl in the reign of Chandragupta. When he came back, right, he did not want to meet, but his wife insisted that we should go and meet. So she also even offered Mallika the position to be, get married to a, let's just say a minister and work under her. But Mallika really denied and she later on got married to a guy in the forest as well. And then Kalidas came to meet her and apologized basically. But still she was like, it's all right. You should not be apologetic about that very particular thing that you had done to me. So basically this is the story of the conflict of the relationship that Kalidas and Mallika had and the resolution, how it comes to the end, correct? So that was all which was talking about, where we were talking about ASHADH ka ek din, one day in ASHADH or monsoon. Then we have another play titled ADHE ADHURE, which if we translate it in English, it is known as halfway house by most of the people, correct? Portrays the disintegration of the middle class Indian family. There are characters which are written over here. Members struggle for fulfillment and happiness. How there are certain families which are struggling with one another and nobody really shows any kind of affection, any kind of happiness, or they are not even content with their own selves. Correct? Complex relationships, dynamics of relationships and the erosion of values in the modern society. So we have 5 characters in here. Husband's name is Mahinder, wife is Savitri, elder daughter is Binny, their son Ashok and youngest daughter is Kinni. So Mahinder and Savitri, they are having 3 children, Binny, Ashok and Kinni. Now what is happening that Mahinder is a guy who does not really earn basically. He just keeps on sitting at his place, at his, in his home. Now, Savitri just is trying to earn some kind of money to be the bread earner of the family. So, when she comes back from her work, nobody even asks for a glass of water, and that is what is, also triggering her. So when she gets triggered, there are fights, etc. She also calls her boss at her place to, let's just say, offer a job to Mahinder. But Mahinder does not want her boss to be there. We see the disintegration of the family members, that how they are not even open to one another, how they are not even happy with one another, and how the family is disoriented basically. So the theme of the disintegration which comes along when people are not happy with one another, the families, the complex relationships that we even might have with our families, etc., are portrayed beautifully. In Aadhe Adhure, the language is very simple, reflecting the times the play was based in. So, of course, we see that even if Savitri's character, she does not really give up, but of course, she expects her family to do something for her if she is earning, correct? But they don't. This is again the poster. Then we have LEHERON ke RAJHANS, which is again a history based play. The great swans of the waves. RAJHANS, correct? Written down for us, down for Sarika, which was a Hindi magazine. So we see that Mohan Rakesh was a writer who used to write in Hindi. So he was writing this very particular play, LEHERON ke RAJHANS, for what? For Sarika magazine. Then we see it is based on Buddha's half brother Nand, and how his conflict between the life, the material life that he wants, he was really in, and then trying to attain salvation. Correct? Conflict described in Sundaranand, a Buddhist narrative poem which was composed by Ashwaghosh. So this is basically, let's just say, the source of the play, source or inspiration or influence of the play. Revolves around Nand and Sundari. Sundari is the wife of Nand, and of course they are brother and sister-in-law of the brother of course Buddha is Nand, and sister-in-law is Sundari. For Rakesh, Nand remained a symbol of an uncertain human mind which is divided into two halves, torn between two values. Should I go and move forward with the materialistic life that I am really having and living in? Or should I attain salvation by leaving everything behind? So, he is a symbol of how human mind is also, let's just say if we are also divided at times in different phases. Shall I study for the test? We procrastinate, etc. things, right? So, we are torn between two values when Dharam Sankat jisko bol dete hai basically. So, LEHERON ke RAJHANS, and how eventually this character named Sundari, she tries to lure him sexually, she tries to lure him materially, right, materialistically, and she tells that we are having this much, right now, and you are going to live in a forest. But he always and always tries to go, and he feels that he belongs there, he wants to attain salvation. So it is based there. So this is again the poster, etc. Now, one prominent theme, the portrayal of the women in Rakesh's plays. How are they shown to be the ones struggling? And if they are struggling, are they strong women or not? How has he portrayed his women characters in his novels and the male characters? So, his women are exceptionally strong. We see different, even if Savitri was earning at that point of time when the play was based, correct? How she was doing something for her family, regardless of how they treated her. So she, and I do not really promote this value that if someone does not really value you, you should keep on doing things. That is not my funda, but of course, how she was also dealing with that very particular thing, dealing with the pressures of convention or the circumstance. Even if the given circumstance that her husband is sitting at her home, he should go and earn, if not earn, at least ask her for a glass of water. Not that much courtesy has been shown to anyone. Let's just say, let aside a woman. So memorably vital that he has often been accused of rendering his male characters too weak. So his male characters, he has been criticized by certain critics that he has portrayed his women characters so beautifully and so exceptionally strong that he forgot about his male characters and ended up showing them at a weak place. Correct? Whether it is Mallika from ASHADH Ka Ek Din, who is Kalidas's beloved, who is left behind when he leaves to achieve name and fame in the reign of Chandragupta. When we talk about her and her endurance that she has, if we talk about Sundari from LEHERON ke RAJHANS, who also is torn between because of the fact that she tries to lure her husband to live with her and he eventually leaves. We see that no two characters are the same. Even if they both are struggling and they are being strong at the same time, both of them are not same. Mallika is an emotional woman. Sundari is a victim of her own conditions. Whereas in Aadhe Adhure, we talked about the character of Savitri, whom nobody asked a glass of water, as I already told you, represents the consciousness of a practical woman. That yes, of course, this is, if I am going to go and earn, you should be courteous enough to ask me for certain things and be a little available for me basically, right? Caught in the process of change, dealing with her good for nothing husband. And I totally get it that how, even if we are talking about Mahinder being totally good for nothing husband, the mental pressure also which develops over the men to be the bread earners of the family, that is also being talked about. And if we deal with that very theme, could be seen that even through the weak characters, we are trying to see the pressure put on man as well to earn bread for for his own family. Correct? So this is what we all were supposed to cover in the lecture, which was the video which was based on Mohan Rakesh. I'll see you again in another video with another concept series, right? Till then, you all keep on studying. Thank you so much and have a good day.